everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to day 2. This is Clio Draft Power Hour, the Expert Edition, and we're talking all about mastering our questionnaires today. So let's get into it. Before we start, I would like to thank you, our sponsors, our unicorn, visionary, and innovator sponsors. They are all absolutely amazing. I'm sure many of you work with them. I highly, highly suggest checking out. Oh my goodness. 1 second. I'm so sorry. That is so embarrassing. I'm sorry. Hello? Hi, Dan. I'm in the middle of something. I'm so sorry. Can I call you back? Okay. Oh, you've got the information I need. Yes, I do need that right away. We're doing your filing actually this week. Let me just send you a questionnaire really, really quickly. I'm going to shoot over a link to you, and I'll have you fill in that information so we can get your filing done right away. 1 second. Yeah, no problem. I'm sure these fine people can wait for us. No worries. Okay. You should be getting it right now. Is it okay if I just text it over to you in the app? Perfect. All right, thank you. Bye-bye. I'm so sorry, everybody, but we all know what it's like when we've got a filing deadline and we're in the middle of something super important, but the law waits for nobody and none of us want to get disbarred, right? So let's talk about how we can gather some of that information with ease, do all of our information gathering so we can continue on doing all the fun stuff that we enjoy doing. So again, this is our Power Hour, all about mastering your questionnaires, and I'm going to show you how to quickly send that information just like we did right now. So let's talk about today's agenda. We are breaking up today's session in 2 parts. We've got a whole hour together, so we've got tons and tons of information to cover. I'm going to try to make it as easy and seamless as possible for you. But first, we are going to talk about the setup. So in order to get the automations to work for us, we want to make sure that the basics are done first, right? So we're going to just review how to set up your template building in our builder, how to start to create some document sets, and then create the questionnaires so we can go and send the questionnaires. Part 2 is all about our automation. We are going to talk about the data integration between Manage and Draft and how that information flows. Then we are going to show you how you can also send and receive client information with ease, and then how we can automate your document drafting. So you might be wondering, who is this weirdo taking calls on the stage? My name is Navneet Mann. I am a senior workflow consultant with our professional services team here at Clio. I am also a certified coach and lawyer. I practiced in beautiful BC for about 6 years prior to coming over to the tech side. I have coached dozens and dozens of lawyers who are actually feeling unfulfilled in their careers, looking for better ways to do their work. So I am an expert all around when it comes to this. I'm also a draft expert, which is why I'm standing here talking to you today. And really, my story goes a little bit deeper. All of us became lawyers because we want to help people, right? Like, we all want to do some good. We all want to help people. But then we actually get into the practice of law, and it kind of sucks sometimes, right? Like, let's just call a spade a spade. It can be really, really hard. And it really takes us away from helping the people we want to help. I actually burnt out in law, which is why I left. I became a coach in order to first heal myself and learn what was going on, why I was feeling so down when I was doing this work that was meant to be so fulfilling that people try to strive to do. And I thought there must be a better way. So my journey took me to helping other lawyers and then coming over to the technology side to see how we can start to automate some of these things and make the lives of lawyers easier so you can go and serve more people and create a better world. So that's why we're here today. Now, we're talking about questionnaires and a lot about AI, and I'll address this funny little image in a second, but how many of us are using questionnaires right now in our drafting? Okay, so a few hands are going up. Amazing. Are you using it daily, pretty regularly, robustly? Yes, no? Okay, medium. Hopefully after today, you'll all be experts at questionnaires and we can get those juices flowing. I thought this was really funny because everyone is so afraid that AI is going to take over and lawyers are going to become obsolete. And then I asked AI to create an image of a lawyer drafting documents, and first of all, he was so angry, which kind of tracks, but why is there a document on the outside of his computer? So rest assured, I think your jobs are pretty secure. I don't think AI is about to take over anytime soon. But that must be what it feels like to draft your documents without questionnaires, I thought. So thank you. I was not expecting some laughs there. All right, let's get into part one, our setup. So I've split up our setup into three different components. We are first going to talk about our templates, how we can build them. I'm really going to run through this a little bit quickly because we're all experts here. You've already drafted templates, and now you know how to do conditional logic if you were watching Eric's session as well. I'm going to show you how to save document sets so everything is in one cohesive place so we can draft documents all together. And then I'm going to show you how to create your questionnaires, which is just a client-facing form that helps them understand the information that you're trying to gather in order to draft your documents, all right? So let's get into it. First, we are going to talk about building templates. So we all have our legal precedents. We have our favorite, best way of doing things. Different lawyers in your firm might have their own preferred legal templates, and that is okay. What we like to do is take your most latest and greatest version of your document and templatize it, so we're not having to go back and do the whole find replace situation and spend a lot of time changing all the pronouns, all the pluralized language, all of the dates and the key information, and accidentally filing the wrong information and really not looking good in front of our friends at the registry, right? So we want to eliminate human error as possible, and we do that by standardizing your documents. So here is what a affidavit may look like in the beautiful state of Massachusetts. We've got one of our precedents here, and we want to turn this into a template. So you're all familiar with building templates, right? It's pretty basic. And now with Jack's keynote yesterday, we know that there's an AI template builder that is coming that is going to help you speed up this process a little bit. Nonetheless, I want to show you a peek behind the curtain on how that is actually done. So if you have ever watched any of the draft trainings, you've probably heard my voice and seen my face on how we do this. I have run through these hundreds of times. Yes, I see the head nods. Okay, so what I normally like to do is advise people to go ahead and identify any of your case-specific information in your documents. So anything that might change on a case-by-case basis, we go ahead and highlight all of those things in yellow. Those are the pieces of information that are going to turn into fields, right? So things that are changing. That's what we want to automate. So here we have identified the county, the case number, our client information, the defendant or opposing party information, and we are ready to start to insert some fields. So what that looks like is we open our draft template builder, we start to build our cards, right? So we all know what cards are. That is basically an index card that will house information that is common to that topic. So client information, opposing party, and then I've got some matter information here. And then when we insert those fields, this is what our templates will look like. Again, I'm going through this a little bit quickly just because I know you all know how to do this already, but it is pertinent to start building those building blocks to where we're headed. All right? So once we've inserted it, here's what a template may look like. Now we've taken out that case-specific information, and instead we have inserted fields. Now those fields are dynamic. We can go ahead and bring in information from our case, from manage, and be able to utilize this document in multiple different ways. That is it for template building. Let's get into our document sets. So saving document sets, honestly, is just about convenience. We are drafting so many documents at once. It's never just, let me just do a complaint. Let me just do a trust. There are groups of documents that we are drafting at the same time. So how do we make our lives easier and gather the information one time to insert into all of these documents simultaneously? We do that through document sets. So sets of documents is going to take the thinking out of it. You're already going to have put together the documents you need to draft at once in one convenient set. Everybody in your firm is going to be able to access, or everybody that has a license to draft will be able to access those document sets. So everyone is using a standardized procedure. And that's what I want you to start thinking about is how do we standardize all of the work that we're doing so everyone is doing it in the same way? That's where automations are really going to help you out. So how do we actually start to create those document sets? Once you are in your draft library, so in the left side panel, let's just call that the navigation panel, that left side black bar there. You'll see that we are in the library page, which is basically your home page in Draft. You are going to navigate over to either your court forms or your Word templates and start to put together the documents that you need for your document set. So if we're looking at court forms, I would just scroll down to Massachusetts court forms. I can go ahead and in that little search panel, I can start to search the document that I'm looking for. So the first document I want is a case cover sheet. So I go ahead and search the word cover. You can search by document form number or document name, and then I can just add it to my selection. Once I click add, it shows up in that right side panel. And then I can go ahead and search for my complaint, again, add it to my selection, so on and so forth. I've got my certificate of service, and now I've also gone over to my Word templates, and I have added a letter to opposing counsel regarding service of my claim. I just want to draft this at the same time. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm filing everything at the same time. It's things that I know I need to draft at the inception of my case. So there you go. On the right side, I've got 4 documents now in my set, and I just want to save those documents. So I just press the Save as New Set at the top, and I give that set a name. I'm going to call it Massachusetts Initial Civil Claim Set, and then press Save. Once I do that, whatever document sets I have created will show up in the left, in the library under Sets. As you see, I've clicked on that up top. This is just a zoomed in version of what my set will look like. It will allow me to take a look at any of the documents that are in my set and or cross out the documents, therefore removing them from my set and then resave, okay? Like I said, everybody from your firm will have access to your set of documents. And the nice thing is you can add up to 20 documents per set. So we can really start to mix and match our forms and Word documents and draft up to 20 at a time. So that is the second part of the setup already done, right? It's pretty simple, pretty easy. Now we get into building questionnaires, and this is where things really get amped up a little bit. Questionnaires are really the star of the show, in my opinion. And I really just want you to take a moment as to why this really matters. And it's because the way we gather information in so many different forms is not conducive to having one centralized place of storing that information. So you never need to puzzle together all of your case facts coming from 18 different emails and 2 pages of, handwritten notes, and then your paralegal's notes somewhere else, and trying to compile it together when you're drafting your documents, trying to figure out the facts of your case. This is one way for you to consolidate all of that information, have one centralized way of receiving information so you can populate it into your documents, right? We're getting into that automation mindset now. So let's create a questionnaire together and see what this looks like in action. So we're looking at our black navigation panel again on the left side of the screen there, and I am in the questionnaires portion of Clio Draft. Again, this is the unified version of Clio Draft. I know some of our folks that are Law users, they might not see this, but come and talk to me if that is you, and we'll get you all sorted. But questionnaires should be available on everybody's account. So if you're not using it, I highly encourage you to start playing with this functionality. What we want to do once we're in the questionnaires portion is go to the top right corner where it says Create Questionnaire Template. Let's just click on that and get started. What this is going to do for you is start to initiate a questionnaire build. So we go ahead and give our questionnaire a name. I'm going to create it based on my complaint for divorce. And now I am going to search for the document that I want to build my questionnaire based upon. So I am going to search for that Massachusetts complaint for divorce, and that's the document we'll be working on together today. Once I search it, I just add it to my selection, and I start to click Build Questionnaire. Now what the system is doing in the background is it is starting to analyze my document to assess it for all of the fields that are required. So all the information that will be required in order for me to actually complete this document and then file it, okay? So once we do that, we end up on this screen. This is our questionnaires homepage screen, essentially. Just to get you oriented if you're not used to what you're looking at, on the left side of the screen, that panel will show you all of the different sections that your questionnaire has. So you can, again, start looking at these as cards, as we had in our builder, okay? It's going to organize any of the parts of the section, the names, and then any fields underneath. And then we also have a nice little introduction section, which is going to allow you to talk to your client, give them some instructions on how you would like for them to fill out the questionnaire. We can also start to customize our questionnaire. So we want it to not look so sterile. You might want to brand it yourself. So what we can do is actually go up to the middle of the screen, right at the top where it says Build, Customize, and Share. Those are the 3 parts of the questionnaire. And we're going to go into Customize. And we can go and click and add any logo that we wish to have. So this just gives the customer a little bit more of a curated experience. I've got my logo in there now. I can also edit my introduction section. I can add any special instructions that I would like to add. I can make any changes I like and then just press Save at the bottom. Once we do that, I can take a look at the documents that are included in my questionnaire. So right now I have my complaint for divorce. The green and yellow highlighted areas are important to note. Green means that it is already a field that has been mapped to a question, okay? So that corresponds with a question that we are going to ask. The yellow tagged fields are not yet mapped. So yellow is just showing that this is not a question that we're asking the client yet in the standardized form, but we can change that, and I'm going to show you how in just a moment. But what I really want to focus on first is this left sidebar. So right now you only see the attorney card, but there are cards underneath that. And this is how we want to start looking at all of the documents that we create. Whether we're looking at Word documents or questionnaires, we want to think about our client's experience. We want to think about the design of our document. So how do we minimize what we're showing the client so they can actually go through it? Everyone's attention span is that of like a puppy these days. So we really want to make it easy for people to comprehend the information and fill it out. You have no idea how many folks I talk to where they say my clients never fill out long questionnaires. They don't fill out long intake forms. So let's enable them to do that. Let's make it easier for them. So here we are looking at some of our sections. We've got this attorney section. I'm just going to minimize that. I've got a client section, court information, so on and so forth. I want to take a look at all of the information that is included in these sections, and I want to start to rearrange it so it makes sense in the way that the client is going to receive this information and be able to see the questions that are posed to them. So we can do some rearranging there on the left side. The other thing I will say with our new questionnaires AI, with the draft AI that's coming out, some of this work is going to be done for us. These are brand new releases, literally being pushed as we speak, but it is going to start to recognize the information that is not relevant for your client to see or fill out. So let's take a look at that together and just to get into how we can make these changes. So there are some parts of this form that my client does not have access to that information. Why do they care about my attorney information or my bar number? They don't have that. And we don't want to look messy by sending them those types of questions. We want them to have a really good, clean experience with us. So let's go ahead and just remove the sections that don't apply. I'm going to press those 3 little buttons next to the cards that I don't want to show to my client, and I'm going to just hit delete. Same with court information. My client doesn't know the division of the court or their case number. I'm just going to remove that. And then I'm going to take a look at this other project information. Same thing. It's a case number. Let's just remove all of that information. Plus, all of that will be pushed through when we do our integration with Clio Manage anyways. So now we've got the cards that we want. I will just add one caveat. make sure that you are sure that you want to remove those cards, because once they're gone from this section of the questionnaire. We can start all over, but you can't bring a card back. So as you are deleting things, just be sure that this is not something that the client needs to see. All right, so now we get into renaming some of these things. So again, the draft questionnaires AI is built to be able to put some of these questions in layman's terms. It's not going to be so sterile by asking the client their name. That sounds so impersonal. So it will be able to create more conversational language around the way we're posing our questions. But I'm going to show you how to do that yourself in case you don't like what the AI created for you and you want it in your own voice. We can just go ahead and click the drop down. Again, the 3 little buttons. And I am going to edit and rename the name of this section. Instead of calling it client, I will say your information. That was marriage information. My bad. That's because the client card had actual marriage-specific information in it. It was asking for the date of marriage and the place of marriage. So we want to be able to decipher what that information is within the card and then rename it accordingly. It's the plaintiff information that is actually the client information. So here I'm just going to ask them for your information and then rename that section. Since we're working on a complaint for divorce, the defendant is the client's spouse. So they might not know this lingo. They might not know what the defendant is. So I'm just going to rename that into, say, your spouse's information. You can say your partner's information, your ex-partner's information, however you want to be able to decipher that. So that is one way of changing some of the language that we are posing to our client. Next, I had touched on some of these yellow and green fields, right? So some of the work is done for us where the system already recognizes which fields are going to be mapped to one of your questions, but these yellow ones are not yet mapped. So if we're looking at when our client and their spouse last lived together and on which date they lived together, we may want to go ahead and start to link those questions to those fields to a question. So the client has this information. Any information the client can provide me, I'm asking them a question for it because I'd rather get it from them in writing rather than me having to call or email them or do any extra work or lose any information. So here I am creating a question. I'm saying, when did you last reside together? I'm giving them the format in which I want to receive that information. And then I'm going to press that plus sign again on that section. And I'm going to ask another question on the date they last resided together. And then again, I'm giving them the format that my document wants. And then I'm just going to press save. So hints are really, really nice to give our clients a little bit extra information in terms of what we need from them. Okay? So now we've got the questions ready. You always want to remember, if we are going to map an unmapped field, we need to have a house to put it into. So now we've created that house together, which is those questions in the marriage information section. So now let's look at how we're going to insert this information and connect those two fields with the question. First, I'm going to click on the yellow field. It's going to ask me to map it to a question and identify that question. Once I do that, from a drop-down, I just press save, and it'll show me that that document has, or the field has been mapped. I always want to press save in that left-hand panel as well. The left-hand panel is the one that is going to add the coding in the back end and identify that to the system. So here we're just identifying the question we want to save it as, and the left side we're confirming that question, okay? So once we've saved that, we see those two yellow fields have now turned green, which is great. That means they are now mapped. It's a good idea to have as much mapping as possible in your forms. And I'll also say that we are just building based upon one form right now because we've only got this amount of time. However, when I was talking about document sets, keep in mind you can actually build your questionnaires based on multiple forms at once, okay? And it will just consolidate all of that information on the left side within the sections that are appropriate. All right, so now we've got this busy looking section where we've got checkboxes, we've got fields, and I want to be able to give my client the option to also tell me what kind of relief they may be seeking. They may or may not know this information, but I want to understand, based on our conversations, their understanding of what relief they're seeking. I want to confirm that information. So I'd like to be able to pose these questions to my client. So how do I do that? First, I identify the section of the document that I am going to now map. And then we go ahead and create a new section for that. It may fall under an existing section, but here I just want to be very clear, and I'm going to create a section called Relief Sought, and I'm just going to say select all that apply here. Okay? Once we have done that, we will go back into that Relief Sought section. I'm going to add a new question, and instead of a short answer type of question, I'm going to change that to a multi-select, specifically for court forms. Now, court form multi-select is the only option that will allow you to do the checkboxes, okay? There's no checkboxes in the Word document section. And now I want to give them the options that the court form is giving me. Again, I'm creating the house for where the unmapped field is going to live later. So we want to be able to identify all of the different places where the checkboxes are appropriate and then save my question, okay? So once I've done that and I'm happy with it, then I can go and map those checkboxes to this question. I also just want to say one thing about the section. So I'm repeating this word section quite a bit. I want you to also understand that every single section and all the questions within it are basically a page on the questionnaire when it's client-facing. And I'm going to show you a preview of this later, but when we're thinking about design and having our clients fill in as much information as possible, make it easy for them. If somebody sees a page that has 40 questions, come on, none of us want to do that. I am sure people in this room would not fill out all of that information, or it will be sloppy. So let's try to enable them, make it as easy as possible for them to fill in the information and then just keep clicking through the pages. All right? So let's get into how we are going to link these checkboxes to the question that we just created. So that's what I'm doing here, is I am selecting each of the options. So what relief are we seeking? Obviously a grant for divorce. This is a complaint for divorce. So I am going to just select the question. So here we only need to select the question, not the multiple answers that we have created in that question, okay? So once we select the question, in a second drop-down, we'll get the answer. And as you can see, we're not going back into that coding section on the left side to save every single time we select a option for the dropdown. I'm just going through and doing that quickly, making sure that each checkbox on the unmapped section is connected to the correct question and answer. Let's double check this, everybody. Once we're creating our one version of the document, we just want to make sure that every single checkbox is corresponding with the correct answer. Otherwise, the client may have intended to say one thing and then something different may be checked in our box, or may show up in our finished questionnaire. And of course, we don't want that. Okay? So when that is done, we see all of our beautiful green checkboxes. Everything looks good to go. Next, what I want to show you how to do is a little bit of an advanced look at questionnaires. So Eric earlier was talking about conditional logic in your documents. We can also create conditional logic within your questionnaires, okay? So we, again, want to have a really nice experience for the client. And I want to show you how you can start to showcase display logic in a way where it makes sense to them. So if your client is somebody that does not have children, we should not be asking them the name of their third-born child. That's not a great experience. It doesn't make us look very good. So let's give them a curated experience. What I want to pay attention to here is that this particular document gives me the option of filling in up to 4 children's names along with their dates of birth. I want my client to be able to answer the questions that are relevant only to them in their circumstances. So what I'm going to do is just take a look at my marriage information card, and I'm just going to ask them, how many children do you have? Or how many children were born of this marriage? Because that's really what matters in my complaint. And then I can go ahead and start to add options. Like I said, my document has room for 4 children, so I am just going to insert up to 4 children that they can go ahead and select. If you have more than 4, this document itself will not let you tag that, but if there is a second document that is included in your forms package, you can always link that as well and add 5 children, 6 children, so on and so forth. Although I don't know who can afford more than that these days, but who knows? All right. Okay, so now we have gone into the marriage information card. We've created a house for the fields that we want to go ahead and map. And let's look at how the conditional logic is created. I'm going to go into the child card. I'm going to edit that card. And I'm going to turn on my display logic. That means this is only going to appear when it is applicable, okay? I go and select that question. We've got some if-then statements happening again, okay? So if the answer to how many children are born of the marriage does not equal 0, then child 1 will appear, right? Because that's the only, 0 is the only circumstance in which it will not appear. Let's go to second child. We're going to turn on our display logic. Again, we're going to go to that if-then statement. We will create a question based upon that, a condition based upon the same question, which is how many children are born of the marriage. And I'll say this time that it doesn't equal 0, and then we can add another layer, and we'll say, and the question also does not equal 1. And now we'll have 2 or more. So on and so forth. So we can go through each of our options or each display logic field, and we can create some conditions around that. This allows for that customization feel for your client, and it also reduces the amount of questions we're going to ask them, because only the number of children that they have will they need to answer their date of birth and their name for. So we're just going to go through and do this for all of those that apply. And once you do that, we see this little logic, oh my goodness, button, I guess, show up, for lack of a better word, to show us that these questions have display logic attached to them. And we can do this with any of our questions as long as it applies to our document. So now that we have created our questionnaire, we have organized the order in which our client will view our questionnaire, we have renamed some of those sections, we've added some checkboxes for all the relief that they're seeking, and we've organized the data to add some conditional logic for that curated experience. Let's take a look at what a preview would feel like. So I'm just going to go into the top right corner of my screen and click that preview button. And once we do that, we see what the client is going to see. So this is a great way of us testing it out. Again, our little introduction, our logo is there. And once the client presses start, they start to see the information and the questions that we've asked them. So remember, this was one section, the marriage information card, right? And here are all the questions that we asked them together, including those 2 questions that we added along with our hints. I know it's a little small, but the hints are written just underneath every single question. So in this example, say the number of children that were born of the marriage were 2. Let's take a look at what that may look like as the client is flipping through this questionnaire. Of course, they'll actually answer all of this information. Now, instead of saying plaintiff at the top, the section name is your information. You can make this anything you want. You can even turn it into a question-based section rather than something that is just a title. Your spouse's information. And now we've got the first child. Okay, let's see what comes next. We've got child 2. And that's it. It didn't show us child 3 or child 4. And I think that's really important when it comes to the experience, not only of receiving that information and your clients feeling like you know them and you know that they only have 2 children, because they don't know that you've got this secret weapon called questionnaires, but it really makes it feel more personalized. But also it just saves time, and it's more likely that they're going to answer these questions. If you take a look at these sections, they're very short, right? It's really easy. There's a low lift to be able to answer a question and then move on to the next section. This is how we start to gather more information and actually get more completed forms back. We're looking at the relief sought. Maybe the person is looking for a grant for divorce, and for the defendant to have custody of the children because they don't think that they're suitable for custody of the children. But when that is done, your questionnaires are all done, your template is built, and now you're ready to go. okay? So how is everybody feeling about that part? Are we feeling confident? Yeah? Okay, because by now you should be able to run through how to build a template. You should be able to create document sets and then create questionnaires based on your document sets. Now, questionnaires may seem a little daunting in the beginning, but they are a game changer when it comes to your actual practice. This is a quote from Tisha English. I've worked closely with her. She was a part of the beta for questionnaires last year. And they have had phenomenal results at LawVex. They are a trust and estates firm. And what she said is that we're really, really data oriented. We know exactly how long it takes us, takes every single person in this practice to generate their documents. And questionnaires is cutting down 2 hours of drafting time per matter. So what she said was that they are now able to reduce the cost of their packages and be able to create more accessibility for folks that can't necessarily afford more expensive, timely legal services, right? And that actually, it sounds cheesy, but it really does make me emotional because I think that's what we're all in it for, is to be able to create more access. So the easier you can make your jobs, that really does flow down the chain and we're able to help more people. So let's give it up for questionnaires. That's exciting for me. I hope it's exciting for you as well and what's possible. And now I want you to just take a moment to reflect, maybe talk to your partner, but let's think about how you can start to implement some questionnaires with your drafting team and how it can start to save you some time. So I'm going to give you all 2 minutes to start considering this. Now that it's fresh in your mind, you may have some ideas, you may have some notes. Start to think about where you can implement questionnaires in your practice today. And then we can think future state as well. But take 2 minutes and just talk to your partners to do that, and then we can share. Awesome. Okay, so let's get into that right now, is the automation. So once we have set everything up, the idea is to only do that once. So yes, it's a lot of time in the front end that you need to invest in setting it up, but the intention is that you don't need to go back and tweak those documents or questionnaires over and over again, and we can just use it to gather the information that we need, okay? So the automation section of our time together is going to all be about the data integration between manage and draft. I think I heard some folks talking about that earlier. And also sending and receiving those questionnaires, how we're gathering the information, and then how we actually go and generate those documents. So the data information, what I really want to talk about is kind of best practices. Here is what our dashboard might look like on Clio Manage, right? We pull up our dashboard, we can look at all this information, but there's a lot of information available here. And for purposes of drafting our documents, not all of it is going to be relevant. But what is relevant is custom fields. And if anybody has ever talked to me or any of my friends on ProServe, we're always harping on how important your custom fields are and how we should really organize them. Look at your custom fields as the foundation of everything you do when it comes to your documents. And pro tip, if you are going to start building your custom fields, look at your documents first. The end result of any interaction with an attorney is the thing that we produce for them, right? And that is going to be based on our documents. Even if we're litigators, transactional lawyers, it doesn't matter. The client is looking for that end result, which is the documents we've generated. And we want to be able to say what information is needed in this document that I need to gather, and how can I back into that, reverse engineer to gather that information at the forefront. And that's where our custom fields come in. We want to be very intentional about how we're gathering the information. Our dashboard on Manage is going to show us what custom fields may look like and which custom fields are related to our particular matter. So here we've got that case number, we've got some marriage information, so on and so forth, and we have different types of custom fields that we're able to insert, whether those are dates, short line text, multi-select, contacts, all sorts of things. And on the right side, we have related contacts. So related contacts are also associated with Manage. This is where you can take a contact from Manage and give them a specific relationship name. So here I have named my related contacts opposing party, child 1, and child 2. So on the right side of my screen, you can see that. We want to think about design. This is really what kind of separates the basic document and questionnaire drafting to the expert level, is we're always thinking about design from a perspective of how is this going to make the law firm's life a lot easier, and how is this going to help the clients? Give me the information, share the information in a cohesive manner. You'll notice that I'm not calling the opposing party spouse. I'm not calling them husband or wife, because different people in the matter might be used in different ways. So I want to always keep that, instead of plaintiff and defendant, I'm always keeping it as client and opposing party. If I have two spouses where I'm doing an estate plan, I'm calling them client and client two, and that's so I can utilize those different clients in different ways. I can have client one be the person I'm creating the estate for, but client one may also be a beneficiary for client two's estate, okay? So we want to be able to think about things in this way and use the same information in a multitude of ways, and that's what this allows you to do. If we are looking at our custom fields, this is just a snapshot of what your fields might look like. You can go ahead and make edits here. We want to make sure that our custom fields are in a great place before we start to integrate, manage, and draft together. But when we are ready, we would just go into draft and then go into our settings and press the sync button. All of you have already done that because you're all here at the expert level, but that's how we're syncing our data between manage and draft. And once you do that and you're reviewing a matter, this is in draft, you're going to see those same related contacts show up in your matter along with your custom fields, which are called Clio fields in Clio in Clio Draft. Everything has Clio in front of it. It gets confusing. Okay, so now we've got our template. We're looking at integrating that data, right? So earlier when we built this template, you recall that we made a matter information card. That was an other card, which is just a miscellaneous card. So when it shows up in our template, it's right at the top where the division, so the county is, as well as the case number. Matter information is a catch-all information card that I created within draft. But hey, I also use manage, and I've got this information in manage already. I don't want to have to write it in draft a second time. So what I do is in my template builder, I go to the card that says Clio Matter. It has a blue check mark on it. That is always going to be your custom fields. Okay, so your custom fields will look different than mine. You can go ahead and search your custom fields. I know I've got a county custom field already. I know I've got a case number custom field already. I just want to utilize the data I already have and put it into my my template. So that's how I go ahead and do that. I would just highlight the area and go ahead and select the custom field, and now that is what shows up in my finished document, right? It's the county and the case number from my custom fields. All right, so that's how we're integrating the data to make sure that we're only having to add it into manage, say, one time, and that is going to push into our draft matter and be able to go anywhere we want within draft, which means any of your documents will receive the same information without having to double check or having to repeat. Now let's look at how we send and receive those questionnaires. So we had a question on whether the firm can do that themselves, and the answer is yes. So I did this in the beginning when my client Dan happened to call me at the most inopportune moment, and I sent over a questionnaire to him. So let's look at how we did this. We just go into that left-hand side panel on our Clio Draft screen in the navigation bar to questionnaires. We select that. And then here is a list of all of our questionnaire templates that we have created. Again, you and all of the members of your firm that have licenses will all see the same information. So we don't need to repeat and build the same questionnaires over and over again. It'll show me the number of questions within each questionnaire, the number of documents that are included in each questionnaire, and when I last updated it. If I want to send a questionnaire to a client, I will just go ahead and navigate to the questionnaire I'd like to send. So again, we're going to look at that complaint for divorce. I'm going to press actions and then the share button, and then that is going to allow me to generate a link. So I can select a matter. We always want to select a matter so that information is going to push back to the correct matter within Clio Draft, and I'm going to show you where that information will live in just a minute. We can give our questionnaire a name. Actually, Clio Draft will help you name it, but you can rename the questionnaire so it's a little bit more personalized. Maybe you put the client's name in there, and then we just press generate link. When we do that, it's going to create a unique link for that specific questionnaire. we can copy that questionnaire link to be able to send later. But now I want you to look at your live questionnaire. So when you have copied that link, you can open that in your own browser. So anyone from your team can open that and be able to fill in the information. You can send it to your client via text, via email, whatever is secure, whatever modality you like to use. Once you've done that, the questionnaire will become live and it will show up in your live questionnaires. And the nice thing is you can spy on your clients and see what the response status is. So when they say I'm working on it, you'll know if they really are. I'll bet you they're not. So here we see the response status, and it'll show you whether they haven't even started it, which means they haven't even opened it, really. It's in progress, if they've saved responses, and then if it's ready for review. So the difference is not started, not opened. In progress, they are working on it. They've started to open it and take a look. Saved responses is some of them are saved and they've moved on to the next section. Ready for review is ready for your review. It is ready for you to take a look at and see exactly what information you've received, because we don't also want to blindly trust the client, right? We don't want to blindly trust all of their responses and then put them in our legal documents and potentially look inaccurate or messy. So we will go and review the information we've received. We would just click that Actions and Review button, and then it'll bring us into the questionnaire information, and we can go ahead and review all of the information. We can scroll through it, make sure it's all correct, and this will also allow us to make any changes that we need to make. So we're just verifying the information here, making sure all the formatting is correct, there's no spelling errors, there's no information that conflicts with information that we previously had, and you'll see that the things that don't apply will show up as not applicable. It's not even showing up on their end, okay? Once we have taken a look at that and we realize actually there's some information that needs to be changed, we can go ahead and make those changes ourselves. So it's as simple as just highlighting, changing the information, changing the spacing, the formatting, whatever you need to do. You can always call the client and verify any information that you need, and then you'll just save the responses to the matter, okay? So previous to that, it is ready for your review, but now it is actually being pushed into the matter in Clio Draft. And how do we go and take a look at that? We would just go to that matter, type in the client's name, and then we hit Actions and View. And then in our matter dashboard, there'll be a section on the bottom left that will show you all the live questionnaires associated with that client. We'll just go ahead and press view on that, and there it all is, ready for you to utilize. You can click the bottom right corner to draft new document if you like, but it is all available for you. And here are the questionnaire responses. It'll also let you go back to the questionnaire in case one of your colleagues may have sent something. You just want to verify which questionnaire this was referring to. Make sure you sent them the right one in case you need to send them a different one. This is where you would be able to see all of that, okay? So now we've learned how to integrate the data. We've learned how to send and receive questionnaires, get all the information that we need. Now we actually want to draft these documents, right? This is where we've been trying to get the whole time. So let's take a look at how that information flows into documents. Again, in our navigation panel on the left side, we're in the library page. We can go ahead and view all of our sets. I'm going to add the complaint for divorce and the affidavit, a set that I already have, to my selection panel, which is on the right side. And now I'm ready to draft my documents. So once I verify that all the documents are there, I go ahead and press Draft New Document. This is Clio Draft's populate page. It's kind of like the interview page internally, where we are just going and answering any questions that our documents may have. So this is both your Word templates as well as your forms. So the beginning here, the standalone questions are your conditional logic questions that you may have set for yourself. The reason this is asking the number of children is because in this particular bundle, I also have a Word template that is asking for a number of children. So that part was not client facing. That's why it's asking that again. And then we just go ahead and take a look at the left side panel. When all of these checkboxes appear, that means all of the relevant data has been completed within those cards. So once that is ready, we are just going to go ahead and press Generate Documents, Clio Draft will do its thing. It will merge all of the information we receive from the client, as well as any information we added in the populate page into our documents. There is our beautiful complaint for divorce. All the information is in there. And I can navigate over to my divorce affidavit as well and go ahead and scroll through any information I need. And then I'm just going to unhighlight those changes to have a clean copy of my document. When that's ready, I'm ready to send it for e-signature to my client. So I can go ahead and do that, and that is going to bring me to this e-signature page. I can select whether I want myself and others or only others to sign. Draft allows you to do unlimited e-signatures, so you're able to send this to as many people as you need. I can go ahead and just select the signers, myself and my client. I'm just going to add their name and email address. It's all going to send via email. It's all secure. We will go ahead and press next. And now we get to insert those e-signature pieces into our document. So we will just go ahead and take a look at placing those signatures. In the left side panel, we're just going to press Add Signature, and it will allow me to drag and drop that signature in the appropriate place. I just assign the signer, so if I'm the attorney, I add myself. I can add a date field as well, and then I can move on and also assign my client to sign a document as well. So I'll just navigate over to the next document, which is the divorce affidavit. I'm going to add my client's signature. Once we do that, I will be able to go ahead and receive the client's signature. It will send him an email that his document is ready for review and signature. So we'll just go ahead and do that and add the date. All right, so once that document is sent and received back, I will see in my signatures panel, in my navigation panel, we'll go to signatures and we will see a completed document that has been done and ready for my review. And that is the full circle on drafting your documents, creating all of your templates, your questionnaires, integrating the data, drafting your documents again, and then going ahead and sending them for e-signature. So I hope everyone is feeling more of an expert than they were when they walked into this room. We covered a lot of stuff. This was a jam-packed session, but it is one that I think you can go back to and be able to at least generate those questionnaire templates in a confident manner. So I did touch on some exciting news with some new features as I was going through. Jack also talked about this yesterday, but there are the AI template builder in Clio Draft, as well as a manage and draft converter that is coming. So if you have some merge fields and templates that you've created in manage and you would like to push those over into draft, there is going to be a converter tool and the AI questionnaire support tool as well. So if you want to be the first to know about all the AI updates with Draft, go ahead and scan that QR code and our team will send you all of the relevant information when it is being pushed into all of the different accounts. Okay, I'll just leave that up there for a minute. And of course, if you need extra help, you can come and see me. I am in the Success Center in Exhibit Hall C. I believe it's C. I'm in the Success Center. My professional services team is in the Level Up section as well. Come and see any of us, have a conversation, and you can also email us at proserve@clio.com. We'd be happy to support you. And if anybody has any questions, I've got a little bit of time to answer questions. Yes, go ahead. Yes, it's the same. So the question was, when a client sends back questionnaire answers, is it protected through Clio? Things like Social Security and sensitive information. Yes, it is the same security you get with Clio as a whole.
Yeah, my second quick question.
Yeah. Oh, you just got a mic there.
Sorry. My second quick question is, you were showing how the status of those questionnaires, where it's maybe, started but not completed. Is there any kind of auto follow-up where after a certain amount of days that questionnaire is not done, a follow-up email is sent to the client saying, hey, don't forget to finish this? Or is that through like the Manage AI or?
It would have to be done through the automations. It is not automatically sending out reminders as of yet, but I'm going to take that as a feature request.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? Yeah, we've got them there.
What is the advantage of using the draft questionnaires versus grow questionnaires so it goes all the way through the process?
Awesome. So grow is an intake. It's an intake tool. And what Grow does is it receives the information and pushes it into draft, pushes it into manage. And it is intended to be at like the inception of your case. It's not necessarily built based upon what your documents will need at the very end. The other thing we find with the intake forms is that sometimes you're asking questions that are not necessarily relevant before the inception of that case. You haven't yet been retained. You're just trying to gather enough information to be able to have that consultation. And if you're asking them who their beneficiary is going to be and what their asset information is before you've even really worked with them, you're not necessarily receiving all that information back. The other thing is you might not know the information you need yet based upon their case and where it's going to take you. And draft will be able to get you that and push into your documents automatically. So the draft questionnaires are based on your documents. You're not creating them separately like you would have to with Grow. Yes. Sorry, I know we're on time, folks. You can always come and email us or find me after if you have more questions, but go ahead. I'll stick around for a couple minutes.
The fields required in the draft.
Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of it.
Required. Can you make them required responses?
Yes, you can. You can make them required responses. Yeah. They're not automatically required. And we've got a question back there.
Thanks so much. I think this is the most helpful session I've been to so far. My question is, what's your best practice recommendation if a situation were to arise where the related contact data in Manage conflicts with the answers in the questionnaire in Draft? Because Draft doesn't sync back, right? So what's the best practice there?
That's correct. Draft does not sync back. We use Manage as our source of truth. So we kind of say that that is where we want, all of the correct information to be. Do keep in mind that things may change. So say it's like an estate plan, it's beneficiary information, maybe now they've changed their mind. So verify it with the client, but you can override the client's answers if you need to.
Is another alternative to use the Clio the managed custom fields as the source for those when they're available is the better practice?
That's
maybe?
exactly it. So the way we like to set it up as best practices is we have contact selects within the custom fields. So we would create custom field sets, have different contact selects in there, and use that as your dashboard and source of truth. Okay?
Thank you.
No problem. All right, I think we're all done for questions. I'll be in the back for a few more minutes if anybody has any additional questions. Thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate you all being here. Enjoy the rest of ClioCon. Thank you.